Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. Go to the link right here in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge, pay $2.99 a month, cancel at any time. We call this a place for the most heat anywhere. That's the most information, conversation, and consternation. You can be there all night long if you choose. It's Off the Floor. Again, it's $2.99 per month if you click on the link in the description. Also, check out the great sponsors of the Five Reasons Sports Network. Includes our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. Put $5 down, get $50 to play. We keep telling you it's legal in the state of Florida. Now they keep adding features back. You can flex play again. So if you used to do that, you can do it again. But we recommend if you haven't played Prize Picks, you give it a shot. It'll get you through the NBA season. Of course, you can play all the other sports as well. It's prizepicks.com. You can find it on the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or again, prizepicks.com. But make sure you use the code 5. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah, five on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs, down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's about have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. I'm Ethan Skolnick. Today's floor plan. Again, you can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at Five Reasons Sports. Jimmy Butler's return tonight at Kaseya Center in Miami Heat. Finally not on a losing streak. They're on a one-game winning streak after losing 10 straight. Of course, things have gone a little bit better for the Golden State Warriors since Jimmy went out there. Today we're joined by an old friend of mine. We go way back, way back, so far back that Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, they were playing in the games that we covered together, covered some Heat and Knicks series together in the late 90s. You can find him now at ESPN. You can find him at Notorious Ohm on Twitter. It's Ohm Youngmusik. I screwed this up for 1,000 years. Go Ohm. Sorry.
Youngmusik. All good. You're not the first, you will be the last.
No, it's all right. I don't want people to pronounce my name correctly. It means they know me, and I don't want them to know me. You're coming to us from South Florida, but you actually had an opportunity to speak with Jimmy Butler in New York. And that article is posting this morning. You can find it at ESPN.com. There's been a lot of buzz about this. And again, we wanted to get the chance to talk to you. Let me know how this came about, where you connected with him, and kind of what the topic of conversation was.
Yeah, I mean, the story is about Jimmy and Draymond and how, maybe some people might have thought such two edgy guys, very emotional, very intense, very passionate guys that have gotten into it with teammates before. How are they going to get along? As soon as Jimmy was traded to the Warriors, people wondered, how would he fit in the Warriors ecosystem? His mid-range game, first of all, how would it fit alongside Steph Curry's perimeter prowess? Basically, the ball movement and everything like that. And then B, such a fiery personality. How is he going to, and a penchant for drama everywhere he's gone. How would he get along with Draymond Green, who certainly comes with his own type of drama? And what I set it up saying I want to talk to both of these guys about the relationship. And what had happened is that these two bonded very fast over dominoes, which I'm sure everybody in South Florida knows that Jimmy loves his dominoes. Jimmy claims to be probably the best player dominoes in the United States. That's what he told me. And he is very serious about his dominoes. Basically said that when he was in Miami, any off day in between games, he would sometimes even fly to the Bahamas to find a game. He said he would be playing like in someone's backyard with roosters running around him. He was game to play against anyone. He's befriended some Jamaican professional players. I guess they're like, there's some of these national teams because they wanted to be like an Olympic sport. It didn't come to fruition yet, but like he's befriended some of these like, what would be Jamaican national team guys, and he looks for a game anywhere he is. Even when we were in New York, I stopped by the team hotel at the Ritz-Carlton Nomad in Manhattan, and he was like, yeah, tonight I may try to find a game. I'm just going to like text some people, see where people are playing dominoes, and he may head over there. He just is hardcore about dominoes. I mean, even like his first off day in Miami to return, he spent like 5 to 6 hours at his coffee shop playing dominoes with a whole bunch of locals, and Draymond showed up and Kevon Looney, and he said they were there, and Draymond beat a bunch of people in dominoes. So he loves his dominoes. But those two have formed a bond, and it started like on the first flight. Jimmy joined the team in Los Angeles. They were playing the Lakers, and the trade had not been approved until just hours before the game, so he couldn't play in that game. There were physicals that had to be passed. But then like he got on the plane with the Warriors, and they went to Chicago. And on that flight, him and Draymond played dominoes, which is something they did when they were on the USA Olympic basketball team in Rio de Janeiro 9 years earlier. And Draymond had said Jimmy only knew how to play one way back then, and he said Jimmy killed him. And so he said, I waited like almost 9 years to get back at him. And he said, I played a lot of dominoes since then and got a lot better, which he did. But the problem was, he said, Jimmy also got a lot better. And Jimmy started playing every possible way there was, and Jimmy mastered all of them. And I said, well, what makes a good dominoes player? And he was like, the thing about dominoes, Draymond said, is you can manipulate what you want your opponent to lay down. You can find ways to manipulate it. You can read things ahead of time and anticipate, because these are all the things that Jimmy Butler does. And it all translates onto the court as well, because I got into it more and more with Jimmy about dominoes and his upbringing with dominoes.
There's a lot to unpack there, because we're pretty familiar with Jimmy's interest in dominoes. The Heat will say there were some nights he was playing dominoes when he should have actually been playing for the Heat late in his tenure, that he was seen at Domino Park. So I'm sure when they hear this, that'll get to them a little bit. I think also what you talk about there about how to manipulate certain situations. We know Jimmy can do that on the court. We also know that some of that happened again off the court in his tenure in Miami, where he's trying to sort of manipulate the situation to get out of here. Ultimately, the Heat acquiesced to that, whereas at first they didn't want to. They made it very public that they weren't going to. Pat Riley came out with a statement, we're not going to trade him. And then when they were comfortable being uncomfortable, they no longer were comfortable with that once they had a couple of meetings with him and the situation became untenable and he got traded. So I want to get into that part of it with you, because obviously, these are two very strong personalities. I always thought Draymond should have been a member of the Heat. I wrote it on draft night that they should have taken him way back when.
He would have been a perfect guy for Heat culture.
Perfect fit, and he would have replaced Battier in the rotation, and they just would have gone forward with that big three team. And Tim Hardaway's actually talked about that. He told me years ago, now he's gone public with that he told Pat to take Draymond, and he didn't end up taking Draymond, and the rest is kind of history. But there also is an element to a honeymoon effect here. Yes. And Jimmy's had this honeymoon effect in various cities, including here. At the very beginning, I remember I asked him within the first 2 weeks about what he liked about it here. He looks me straight in the eye. He says, they allow me to be me. I'm hearing the same things from him now upon his return. When Jimmy came to Miami, he had Tyler Hero. He flew Tyler Hero up to Chicago to spend time with him up there. They actually flew down together so they could spend time together. So again, it's not the first time he's bonded with teammates. We see him going back and forth with Buddy Hield in a playful way. It kind of reminds me of the thing with him and Strus back here in Miami. How much of this honeymoon effect do you think will last? Because his stats are actually not that different from what he was producing in Miami. His efficiency is down, but he's producing more rebounds, more assists, and they're winning. So how long do you think this can last for them?
They will be on whatever island they're on for their honeymoon, whether it be Bora Bora or the Maldives or somewhere in Thailand, maybe just like White Lotus fans would say, in Koh Samui. They will be on that island until they lose in the playoffs this season. And I would say the honeymoon will last into next season. Right now, there's nothing Jimmy Butler can do wrong. And it's not even about the statistics. It's about the aura he has brought to this team. He has single-handedly reinvigorated Steph Curry. Steph Curry was really just mentally, I think, in a place where he was getting frustrated and struggling, not with the franchise, but just like, it's not that they didn't, players loved each other. They loved that locker room pre-trade. Andrew Wiggins, obviously Slow-Mo, all of those guys. The night it happened in Utah, I mean, Steve Kerr looked like he was devastated to have to break the news to Andrew Wiggins. I watched it all happen as Andrew Wiggins was walking off the floor like he had been told he was traded. And all of a sudden you just see all these guys from the team come out and hug him. And Curry came out of the locker room and hugged him. And that's when I kind of knew something was definitely going on. And then they closed the locker room to the media during media access because Steve Kerr had to talk to the players. But Steph was, he wants to play for something. And at that point, they were a under 500 team or 500 team, middling after a 12-3 start. They could just not get out of their own way. And then when they get Jimmy comes in and it's like Steph's reinvigorated. Draymond is playing harder than he was before, moving faster, cutting harder. Everything he does is like at a different level. It was like at almost like the start of the season. And they have actually just exploded since then. And Steve Kerr described Jimmy Butler as like a lion, that basically like there's a swagger and an aura to him on the floor. It doesn't matter statistically what he does. It's about that attitude and that energy that he's bringing to the team. And he's also covering up a lot of their flaws. Like he gets to the free throw line. The Warriors were horrible at getting to the free throw line. They didn't really have an inside presence. Jimmy has become like their de facto big man center. Basically, they throw it inside to him. He gets inside the paint, and he's either going to score or he's going to get to the free throw line. He's not shot well. We have not seen playoff Jimmy, that type of level, but he hasn't had to be, really. Honestly, he's more of a connector. He's just moving the ball, and then all of a sudden what you find is if Steph gets double teamed, Steph's like, I know when I let go of the ball, the right play's got to be made. It's almost like a hockey pass. He passes to Jimmy, but then Jimmy will find the open guy. And a lot of those guys that have benefited have been like the Buddy Hields, the Brandon Pajemskis, the Moses Moody's. All those guys' levels have gone up. And so they have a belief factor now. Steph had already told me back in January, if we get out of the play-in and we're in a playoff series, we believe we can beat anyone in the 7-game series just because we have that championship experience of him, Draymond, and Steve Kerr. Like in 2022 when they surprised people, he's like, but now with Jimmy, that belief factor has gone way up.
Well, you look at the West right now, and you look at some of the teams at the top of the West. There's a lot of inexperience there. You look at Houston, you look at OKC in particular. Not so much Denver and Lakers, but the other two. And if they draw one of those teams, I think there's going to be a lot of people picking them, particularly against Houston. I think if it's Houston, I think that it's going to lean their direction. You had a chance to talk to both of them, and it is the dynamic between the two of them is interesting. He's never really had a player personality like Draymond in Miami. Bam is a lot more like Steph in the way that he acts and all that, sort of nice to everybody, just the way that he is. It's what he's known for. Obviously, Tyler was kind of growing into himself, wasn't in a position to challenge Jimmy on anything. And that's what I'm curious about, because we're saying, well, we haven't seen playoff Jimmy from an efficiency standpoint yet. Maybe he can get there. He's doing all the things you mentioned are the things that the Miami needed, right? Getting to the line. Miami lost 10 straight. It's not because they played that poorly during them. It's because every game got away in the fourth quarter. They couldn't slow the game down. They couldn't get to the line. That's what they wanted. The best of Jimmy. They just didn't want to have Jimmy to have to do it all the time, and yet they were unable to kind of get him the number one so he could settle in as the number two. It ain't easy to trade for Steph Curry, okay? But we talked about Dame and Donovan Mitchell and some of those over the years. The Draymond Jimmy thing, as you talk to both of them, do you expect there to clash at any point? Because we've seen not just Jimmy, but we've seen strong personalities, and then it starts well and it doesn't end well. Do we have any flare-ups, do you think?
Well, I think one of the things they were saying is that Draymond was saying, because I said, look, you've been on teams with strong-minded guys like DeMarcus Cousins, and he was like, I respect those guys more. He's like, those are the guys that I have a greater appreciation for because they're they're more alike than they're not. And what Draymond had said was there's a lot of lion descriptions with Jimmy Butler. And he said, Jimmy Butler's coming into a different pride. And he said, so what do you do? Is it easier for him to come into a different pride and him have to follow this pride? Or is it easier for me to follow Jimmy and let him lead? And he said, because he's such an outstanding leader, he's like, I have no problem following Jimmy. And I think what you've seen on the court is Jimmy is working with Steph and Draymond. They are both talking things out all the time. There's constant communication on the court. I think we've seen at one point Jimmy pull out the whiteboard in Sacramento and start drawing this play. And Draymond is watching him and Brandon Pajemski during a timeout. And I asked him what it was about. And he said, I was showing them that if I'm in the corner, basically, and he said, I'm like Steph Curry. If Steph Curry's on the three-point line, he's going to draw two guys, sometimes even three. He goes, when I get inside the paint, I draw two guys. And he goes, so if you get me the ball and I can get inside, he was like, I was showing him that if I come in, basically guys are going to peel off a shooter. And he basically was like, Brandon Pajemski is going to be butt-ass naked. I think that's what he said. And so he was pointing this all out on the whiteboard. And these are the things you see like in timeouts. He's constantly talking to guys and they're listening. Listen, at some point we know things don't always end well with Jimmy Butler everywhere he's gone. They're on a timeline right now where Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler have this 2-year window to try and win another championship, the 5th championship for the Golden State franchise. And that's all that really matters right now. And then the Warriors will get to whatever happens after that. And if things end badly, well, they'll just probably move on like everybody else, right? But for now, everything is like exactly what they needed is Jimmy Butler. Draymond Green says it all the time. Steph Curry says, Steph needed another all-star scoring presence just to not only take the burden off him, but the attention. And defenses have to respect Jimmy. And then on the other side with Draymond needed another elite pit bull on defense, basically. And that's what they have with Jimmy Butler. The other night, I don't know if you saw the Toronto game. Draymond makes this. They had like what looked like an easy alley-oop. Toronto did. Draymond comes out of nowhere like a free safety, deflects the pass. They protect the 3-point lead there. And then again, they're up 3 with about 29 seconds to go. And Toronto's point guard drives and has like basically looks like he's going to have a layup. Jimmy peels off Jakob Poeltl, blocks a shot at the rim, and then he points to Draymond and says, I can do this too. And like you have these two defenders who basically won the game with their all-star defense. Those are the type of things that they just did not have before Jimmy came.
Right, his defensive metrics have been really good out there. We're here with Ohm Youngmusik. I got it right the third time. Again, catch his article here on ESPN. I'll let you close here. Is there anything else in the article that you want to draw attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the quote that I think Jimmy said was, everybody thinks, and I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on here. I don't know if you can bleep it out. But Jimmy basically
we do all the time. We do. We had a 10-game losing streak we covered. So yes, go ahead.
Jimmy said something like, everybody thinks that we're gonna fucking butt heads, and he goes, "We're not gonna motherfucking butt heads." Everybody overlooks that all we want to do is fucking win, and he basically said we're a lot more alike than people think we are. When they play dominoes. Draymond said he uses those sessions to get to know Jimmy because he said Jimmy is a closed book. He goes, all I knew about Jimmy before is basically what you see that's out there. And he said, so every time I play with him, I ask him questions about his upbringing, things like that. And Jimmy basically said, look, we're both from similar type of towns. He's from Tomball, Texas. Draymond's from Saginaw, Michigan. He's like, we both ended up in big-time college basketball programs. We were drafted late. Jimmy was at the end of the first round. Draymond famously went in the second round. People passed us over. He was like, people think that Draymond is an asshole. I realize he's not an asshole. I already knew that, but everybody that was saying that about him, he's like, you could put a bunch of people in the lineup and they would say the same thing about me. And so he basically said that they both have these similarities. And I think that's what they've been able to bond over dominoes, and certainly on the court, that bond is paying off.
All right, Ohm, we appreciate it. Again, I used to enjoy those Knicks Heat series with you, although not all the time we spent with Isola and Wise, but that's okay. Catch the article on ESPN.com today, and the background that you've got there. I live down here, and your background is better than mine, so I'm doing something wrong down here. Thank you, Ohm. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Ethan. Anytime.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. Just wanted to give a quick programming update because we know that a lot of you are going to be tuned into the Jimmy Butler coverage. Brady Hawk, myself, Alex Toledo will all be at the game. Greg Sylvander will be hosting the post-game live podcast with our guy Digital Adele. You can also catch all of the content on Off the Floor. Also going to have two other Jimmy Butler podcasts at the minimum that are going to be up prior to the game itself. So yes, we're putting a lot into this because he's a top 5 player in Miami Heat history, regardless of the way that you felt about how it ended. So again, I'm Ethan Skolnick. We appreciate Ohm for joining today. Catch all of the coverage again on the Five on the Floor podcast feed, the 5 Reasons YouTube channel, and on Off the Floor.